Hey VC, Mick back here with some sad news. Today with the passing of John Michael Osborne, known as Ozzy Osbourne to everyone, and certainly somebody who I grew to appreciate as I got older. And I think I only like Ozzy, but I probably do love his music. So it took me a while to make it to Sabbath, but it wasn't a direct route to Sabbath. So my introduction to Black Sabbath was probably through the Australian television show Rage, which would play classic rock with a punk tinge, and they played Paranoid quite a bit. But where it first came to my attention was with Dinosaur Jr., and in particular their track Little Furry Things and Sludgefest. Now, Dinosaur Jr., featuring Jay Mascis, Lou Barlow and Murph, formed out of the ashes of punk bands, but the key thing with this was they were punk plus with dark classic rock. This is on the SST label, and it was Little Furry Things in particular that saw me indoctrinated into the hard rock, inverted commas, sabs with your punk doctrine. Of course, it'd been done a little bit earlier, and I was only later to find that out with Black Flag, My War. Now, the key thing about My War is the second side is a massive Sabs tribute. Now, this album predated the Dinosaur Jr. album, so this came out in 1983, once again on SST. And Greg Ginn was certainly in on the burgeoning Sabbath worship. And there we go, there's the original label on my version of My War. Okay, but it didn't just stop with the SST bands. There was other bands coming out with Sabbath love, particularly with their dirgening riffs. And this one is the Butthole Surface with their Hairway to Stephen, or Hairway to Steven, which is how it was taken off on. This is on the Australian independent or Go-Go label, and you can feel the weirdness on this. This album helped explain some of the weird antics of the Sabs through the eyes of the Butthole Surfaces. Or Go-Go Records from Melbourne, and Bruce Milne certainly helped introduce myself to Sonic Youth, but also to the Butthole Surface. I'm very thankful for them producing those albums. Okay, I guess we continue through grunge, and once again, this is Sabbath influence with punk. This is Tad and God's Balls. So this is the 1989 album from Sub Pop. Tad Doyle plays banjo, barking, and a 50-pound sledgehammer on this, but really he's aping punk meets Sabbath. Great album. My favourite track of theirs is the 7-inch Jinx. Now, when did Sabbath go overground? Well, they probably already were overground, but the way I see it, it was particularly Nirvana that helped grow them, and on this one I would say the track Negative Creep owed a lot to Paranoid, owed a lot to Sabbath. This is on the Australian Waterfront label, and this was my Negative Creep was my going out anthem. So before I'd go out as a young fella in nightclubs, I'd pump up Negative Creep with the view of this is me getting ready for the nightclub scene in my country town, hometown of Rockhampton. I still wouldn't have called myself a Sabbath fan. I don't think I owned a Sabbath album at this point, but I was starting to understand them more. And we go back in time a little bit, but here we have the Swans on the Young God label with their 1983 album, Filth. A lot of industrial aspects to this, but also a lot of dark, dirgy aspects. Once again, we're feeling Sabbath. Now, Sabbath worship wasn't too far away. So particularly when this came out. So this is the Melbournes, and the Melbournes were open Sabbath worshippers. Here's their debut major label album from 1993, Houdini, on the always great Amphetamine Reptile label. Never one to shun a Sabbath influence. Now, an earlier album by the Melbournes called Boris inspired the Japanese band of the same name. Now, this one comes from 2001, and Boris certainly named themselves after the Melbournes album, and they too carry on their Sabbath worship, aping the Virgin label with the heavy logo on it. Fantastic Japanese Sabbath influenced noise rock, and they did go across the whole gamut, so glam, Sabbath, certainly no one trick ponies. Boris also came out in 2001, maybe the ultimate Earth tribute band, but ultimately a Sabbath tribute band, even down to the cover art. There's some housing there that looks familiar. Sunno featuring Stephen O'Malley and his great Southern Lord label. It is maximum volume yields maximum results and optimized for a blackened sub-bass systems. Yeah, that's certainly where the Sabs came in. Quite a hard to find version there on the white vinyl. Okay, we're still in the phase of bands being heavily influenced by Black Sabbath. Now this one opens up this way, and this is Sleep from 2003 on the TP label. There's the full thing. This album's called Dope Smoker, and is drony, stoner, doom, pure Sab worship, right down to the mythical artwork. Is it heavy metal? Yeah, but it's smart metal, and I guess that's a feature of Black Sabbath that I do like. That's the album labels there, and it's a double album, which was rare for 2003. And I have a real weakness for double albums, but here we are. Once again, we get the Virgin label with Sleep, Dope Smoker. Bit of a theme developing there, isn't it? So people were seeing themselves as progressive metal, and including all the progressive sign marks. Now, unbeknownst to me, and only probably until the 2015s is when I started to realise there was a heap of other bands that had become from before all these bands who were influenced by Sabbath. I mean, why wouldn't I think that? I had Pebbles albums. Why wouldn't I think the same about Sabbath? Anyway, here we have Hand of Doom. Now that's named after the Sabbath track of Paranoid, and this was released at the I guess the end of Krautrock, so 1979. Sort of recorded very cheaply in Germany. Proto Sabbath doom noise, only it's not proto, it's after. And there's a whole heap of these bands that Ozzy influenced. That was quite a nice reissue, and I know it's had a couple of reissues on the Dole label. You get a nice poster there, and some customized labels, given that this album would be difficult to find and super expensive in its original form. So probably maybe primarily listening experience for this one, because it is remastered, this version, from the original tape, so we can only hope for more. Now, that influence, I think, extended to this series here, the Brown Acid series. This is the first trip, so I'll read you a bit of a quote. After Flower Power and before punk, heavy-hearted rock bands dominated the American music scene. In towns across the country, garage bands that had grown up taking drugs, flashing peace signs, and witnessing the Beatles had witnessed the atrocities of Vietnam and Ultimate, gaining a new perspective in a darker, crunchier, more bombastic scene in their music. Bands like Led Zepp, Black Sabbath, The Hendrix Experience, Grand Funk Railroad and Deep Purple were blasting out of muscle car windows, influencing a new generation of jaded musical amateurs. And this series is the definition of Sabbath worship. And what an apt title, Heavy Come Down. And it keeps going. So this is Church of Misery, fronted by Tatsui Mikami, often seen as a Japanese Sabbath influenced band, but really highly influenced with US personnel. Now, I saw these guys at Desert Fest a couple of years ago in the UK. Fantastic, and it kind of felt like I was at a Sabbath concert. Okay, so that's all the things that I've thought had been influenced by Sabbath. But if you only like Sabbath but don't love Sabbath, what does your collection look like? Well, this is what mine from Australia looks like. So, of course, we start off with the first album. This is quite thin board, and this is on the Channel 7 Records, or the 7 Records label. So, people in Australia would be well aware that 7 is currently the #1 TV channel in Australia, and this is their record label. And in the early 80s, they released a number of albums that they'd obviously obtained the rights from. So me obtaining these is going to garage sales, lifelines, record stores, and more importantly markets during the 90s, and purchasing whatever people were throwing out. So every now and then you come across a Sabbath album, and I'd only probably pick up the ones I thought were in great condition. Okay, dealing with Paranoid. Well, could it get any better than the box set, the super deluxe box set of Paranoid? Now, you do get quite a number of things on this. You get the original album, you get the quadra disc mix in stereo, you get some live in Europe, you get some live in Montreux, and you do get a live in Brussels set as well. Fantastic set. Now, I'm sure people will argue about the sound quality. This goes fine. I've got a mid quality stereo, and it certainly meets the guys is there. There's a nice booklet you get with it. Now you can tell by the order these comes out what I've been playing. In particular, there's the quad in stereo. Now I'm sure this will be reissued and Rhino hi-fi'd and everything else, but certainly for someone who just likes Sabbath, this more than enough hits the spot, especially when you think that this box set, including probably it'll cost as much as a mo-fi'd Rhino anyway, and you do get a heap of bonuses. This is the live in Europe, so live in Montreux, triple, live in Brussels. Just open that up that way. So this is 1970 live. Now, certainly, if you want to experience Sabbath at this point in time, this box set is certainly how it should be done. And of course, you do need the original classic album there. So this is not the quad version, but just the standard version. Like all these box sets, it comes with a super duper poster. And I said it before, I say it again, I never know what to do with these, so I just end up doing this with them. Which seems kind of a waste, because I probably just don't want that aesthetic all over my my house. But the other thing, and more importantly, why you should buy these box sets is if you do want to deep dive into a band, you get the booklet. And this booklet's obviously hardcover here, but certainly something to study as you go through the music. Gives you background, posters, a full immersion of 1970s Black Sabbath. How can you go wrong with that sort of nature of a box set? Okay, next up, Master Reality. Once again, on the 7 label. For the underground rock fan, which is where I was coming from with Sabbath, certainly more than hit the spot. Once again, on the 7 label. And once again, these were purchased from various shops, markets, op shops, generally scrounged. There we go. Now, how do I deal with this going forward? Well, we get the Vinyl Me Please version. Allegedly one of the better versions of it. Who knows with all this? My take is it's often good, better, best. This is better than the Channel 7 version. Ryan K. Smith handles the mastering. You know, you get all the nice things, like you get your little Obby strip there, Obby strip. And of course, one of the things VMP Rock did do well, as always, did a nice booklet. So you can see there, while listening to this, you can immerse yourself into the spirit of Master of Reality. And they even ate the Warner Brothers labels at the time. Some fancy vinyl there, isn't it? That looks beautiful. Okay, we keep going. Black Sabbath 4th. Now, this is the US version. Black Sabbath Volume 4. Comes with some nice pictures, and you know, Sabbath were always conscious of their artwork. And I just showed you the Master of Reality inner sleeve and label, and here is yeah, that's the original US Warner's one. More than met the expectations for my Sabbath love. There's the initial inner sleeve with a Lost Leaders advertisement. Now, I knew Volume 4 by Sabbath was an iconic album, so why not go for the upgrade? So when I first started traveling to Japan, I grabbed one of these. Now, one of the best known secrets, or should be more widely acknowledged secrets, is that non-Obi versions of Japanese records can be very affordable. Particularly if they're a little bit beaten up. So this is the Japanese Vertigo, and there we go. There's the magic swirl. We all want to see that, don't we? But yeah, there's a Japanese label. Now, most importantly, this is quite a clean version, and certainly did me until some more luscious options became came into view. And in particular, I'm talking about the Black Sabbath 4 Super Deluxe box set. And what we get here is we get the original album, we get some outtakes with some new mixes, alternative takes, and we get some live stuff from 1973. So let's just open this one up. Now, like the Paranoid one, you do get a number of albums and certainly help you immerse yourself. So you get the original mix of Black Sabbath Volume 4. Outtakes with new mixes. Alternative takes and false steps. And the massive live set there from their 1973 tour. There we go. And this certainly helps you immerse yourself into the world of 1973 Sabbath. Once again, as in with the other volume, similar kind of setup. You do get your poster. Get this one open for us again. There we go. Yeah, how good's that? And you do get your hardback book. Now, I actually think this is the perfect way to release albums that are key milestones. You get the album, you get some live music from the era, but you also get a nice hardback book. So while you're listening to your alternative takes, your live album, your original album, you get the feeling of what it was like to be immersed in that era, and it takes you back to that time frame. Okay, next up, Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath, once again on the Channel 7 label. Once again, reasonably clean version, certainly a version more than serviceable for your alternative rock fan, and certainly how I travelled with Sabotage as well, once again on the Channel 7 label. These fitted quite nicely in the shelves, and just with the punctuation of the Super Deluxe box sets. Now, Sabotage also came in a box set, and let's just quickly go through that one. There's your box set there. You get the original album, you get the North America tour from 75, you also get a 7-inch with a couple of radio edits, and most importantly the B-side, Hole in the Sky, which was the first track of the album. Okay, let's open this one up, and once again it follows the familiar format of booklet, poster, and albums. So let's start with the original album. There we go. There's the original album there. A bit nicer than my Channel 7 one, isn't it? You get the North American tour live. Bit of Satan love there. Nice triple. You're certainly feeling the band at this stage still, aren't you? Nothing much has changed. Ozzy's still there, barely. Once again, the poster. And, I mean, these posters are fantastic, aren't they? Look at this. You hang these up in your room and have a Sabbath tribute room. I've got too many records and I'm too particular about my taste to ever do that. But there's the 7-inch with the radio edit. We get the Madison Square Garden program. Fantastic detail on these box sets. And there we go. The Sabotage hardback. I mean, what more could you ask for? Ozzy there, looking svelte in his caftan. Okay, we continue on with our Sabbath love, but only quietly with Never Say Die. Of course, it's the first 4 albums that are worth everything. Special price version. This would have been pulled out of a cheap bin at some point here. This is the UK version. And of course the lineup is being reduced at this point. And once again, keeping in line with my love of these box sets, we have the Technical Ecstasy box set. Now, Technical Ecstasy box set follows the same formula, which is a fantastic way of dealing with all this. You get the original album. How nice is that? You get a new mix of the album. You get the outtakes and alternative mixes. The new prog king, Steven Wilson, gets a play on that. And there you go. You get some action from the tour. And the 76 to 77 tour. You get a taste with the official program. There we go, these massive posters. Once again, you get the Technical Ecstasy hardback book. Okay, we're nearing the end of any Sabbath love that I have, and I guess at this point in time it's important to reflect that Ozzy only a couple of weeks back did his last live show sitting on a stage in a chair as the King of Metal, the King of Darkness, not the Prince of Darkness anymore. Doesn't end my Sabbath story, because this has Ronnie James Dio on it. We've still got Tommy, Geezer, Butler in the band, but they are certainly missing John Michael Osborne. Okay, thanks for being on my journey, and R.I.P. Ozzy. I think I do love you, mate, now I think about it a bit more. Okay, see everyone soon.